focused over the last years on both hyperlocal farming and Kenny, you've done quite a bit on iBuyer innovation.
Yeah, I mean, as farming agents, one of the things, once you have market share and dominate kind of an area, really the cool thing is you build an audience, and over time that audience now trusts kind of your opinion. And so in our market here in Arizona, we're well, August this year we celebrate, that's the wrong word. We mark the 5th anniversary of Open Doors' first purchase in the Phoenix market. So for those who are not familiar with iBuyers or do not have any of the national iBuyers, which we'll refer to as ZOO in this conversation, which is your Zillow, Open Door, and OfferPad, which are kind of the big three. We'll kind of dive into that a little bit, as well as, you know, kind of how to create your own. It's really a conversation. So,
so Kenny, why should we be marketing instant offers in the farm?
I could give you a couple why you shouldn't, and that would be the short list, and then everything else would be why too. But you know, why, if you have instant offers, or as you start to, I mean, I don't think this is a moment in the market. I think this is the new market, and this will continue to spread across the U.S., and including the smaller towns and, you know, anywhere real estate is bought and sold. But you know, why you should is it's not our choice anymore. I mean, the truth of it is that the consumer is demanding this product, and through that demand, we have a choice, and that's to either make the consumer make a choice, which is either instant offer or agent. And what we want to teach and train is to not have to, you know, not put them in a position to have to make that choice, that they know that their agent handles instant offers, can facilitate those. So it's really the consumer demand that is driving it. And also it's a great conversation starter. So, you know, for those who have been, you know, around long enough and had, like, say, the guaranteed offer or guaranteed sale programs in their market, those were really meant to be a conversation starter. It was really very rarely did most of those people buy property. It was more for lead generation. Well, now you have a guaranteed offer program, but you actually can get them an offer, and it's not your own money. You have to use somebody else's, and companies that are, you know, sitting on Wall Street money. So we're talking, you know, millions and, you know, multi-millions that are backing this. So at the end of the day, you know, why is because if you want to survive in this market going forward, I don't think it's an option not to understand this and how to use them as a marketing tool to generate more conversation. And we can talk about some great open house scripts, door knocking scripts, circle prospecting scripts. But at the end of the day, if you can give me an offer, I don't need a listing presentation. I don't need all the other stuff. Guys, the CMA is dead, in the sense of, you know, what's my home worth? That was our big thing.
Well, they can find that anywhere.
Well, they can get 10 of them in instantly if they Google their address.
And they're only going to choose the one that they think
they like.
Yeah.
The highest one, right? So I think, you know, it's not really up to us. And I think the first step is, as an agents, are really getting educated in this space, and then figuring out how to use this as a tool in your business to just get to the table. And that's talking about new leads, let alone your data bank. And we have a lot of work to do there, guys. You know, I had a stat that is in a different group that we have, that Open Door closed 1,700 transactions last month. That's just on the acquisition. That's what they bought throughout the US. Only 10% of those roughly had an agent involved. And the scary thing to me on that is that means 1,530 sellers may never use an agent again if they don't have to show their house. They don't have to do any of the stuff to get it ready. They close when they want, and really what I call the 3 C's, which is your consistent, you know, the convenience of the whole process, the control of it, meaning that you're setting when the inspection, you know, all the different things that it offers, and then the certainty, which is knowing when to close and all of that. So that was a lot in a short moment there, but there's a lot of reasons to be marketing that.
So they're not going anywhere. They're growing.
I think, you know, what we've seen being here in Arizona, which is the, you know, kind of where everybody starts off, is they've only multiplied. And now, Wall Street validated Open Door several years after they started by now backing them. So when SoftBank started sending them money, it kind of validated that, this is a business. Further validation would be Zillow jumping into the marketplace. And the crazy thing about Zillow is, they've already got our consumers, they've already got search, and now they just add a button that says get an offer on your house. So, be aware, go to these sites, read up on them, check them out. I just don't believe that they're going anywhere. And we can talk about a down market and all the other things that people say out there. They're not making money. My answer is always, well, who cares?
Yeah.
That's not our problem. Our problem is they are taking market share. And a down market actually kind of excites them. I mean, there's a whole other market that we don't see in the background, where a lot of these iBuyers are selling off to institutional REITs and things like that are, looking for rental properties, and they're looking to grow those portfolios. I mean, currently, investment REITs only own about 2% of the single family home market, and they're looking to take that to about 20%. It's a significant number.
The argument on, that, well, they're not making any money. Well, we heard that same thing from mom and pop retailers with Amazon, which Amazon for years did not make a
Facebook, Uber.
But they changed the way consumers want to choose. And even if these particular ones can't make it, other ones will replace them, because that is what consumers are clear about, that's what they want.
We've got another one in our other program that we're interviewing hopefully later this week, that's getting ready to launch in our market, and a little bit of a different spin to it. So, and it's really what they're offering that is really driving the consumer demand. And so they solved the biggest pain point, which is what we call here the 3 C's, which is your convenience, your control, and your certainty. And by eliminating the most painful part of the transaction, by putting the seller back in control versus the buyer being in control, which is kind of what we've seen before. The buyer usually picked the closing date, buyer when they want to show the house, if they want to cancel, all the other stuff that went on. They've kind of reverse engineered this process and put the seller back in control and saying, well, when do you want to close? They even send a link, when do you want the inspection done? And there's certainty. This is keep in mind, an iBuyer is really a non-emotional buyer.
Yep.
Whereas even if I have a cash buyer, they're still emotional. They could change, life could happen, something could get in the way, stock market could change. I mean, anything that could have them cancel. These guys, other than an inspection, we're not seeing that. So, I think consumer demand, and if you are farming, this is such a relevant, great message. What we want to teach is just get the elephant out of the room and just talk about this stuff. If you aren't, somebody else is. And I always want you to keep that in perspective. I mean, if you aren't talking about the new market, you can't hide it. Like, we are no longer the gatekeepers of information. We are really the real estate guides for the consumer, and we represent them. And that's the kind of the interesting thing about this whole program and where we're heading, is really reminding you that, you represent the client. You're a free agent, meaning you can give them all their options, where all these guys can only give them one. So from a truly marketing standpoint, I mean, it's just a massive opportunity. I mean, a lot of people, like where the iBuyers are real prevalent right now, are very fearful of this, and my feeling is on it, I'm going to run at it instead of away from it, or just put my head in the sand and hope it kind of goes away, because I don't believe it is. So we have a choice, and the choice is we need to get educated on it, and then more importantly is how to use it in your, in everything you're doing anymore, your videos, your calls, your door knocking, and all that. So
and when we talk about what the consumers want, I think a lot of people, agents that are looking at it, go, well, they're giving up so much in value, but these are very valuable things. Convenience, the not having the showings, not having the signs, not having the photographers, control, being able to decide when they're going to close, which is really nice if they're getting a new build, or if they haven't found the home that they want yet. And then certainty, you don't have all the issues that come with appraisals,
an inspection, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the myth that's out there, and this may, hopefully a lot of you guys are sitting down, is, the myth that's out there is that the sellers want as much for their home as they, that's their number one thing, is they want as much as possible for their home. What we have found after 5 years of being in this space, that's a question to the consumer. What's most important to you? Is it convenience? Is it, to get as much as you can for your home? And when you show them the cost of convenience, you'll be surprised at how many may leave 8, 10, 12, 15, 18, 20 grand on the table for that convenience. And I got to be honest, I can't tell you that I wouldn't sometimes.
But to a lot of people, the net that is on the piece of paper is not a real number, because they don't have that in hand. They won't have that in hand
until later down the road. Yep.
But even if they're selling and buying, they're not going to have that actual money. It's going to go somewhere else. And so to discount that when there's that much value, it's not that big of a struggle for most homeowners.
No, and equity is a lot like chips in Vegas. It doesn't always feel real because it wasn't necessarily earned income. Just like with Vegas, they exchange your cash for chips and they remove the emotion. I think equity doesn't have a ton of emotion versus if it was your hard-earned wages and you think about the sacrifice and the time where you can just move. So Gary Keller's always said to us, the internet hasn't necessarily created more buyers or sellers. It's created more leads for all these people to sell us, but not necessarily more buyers and sellers. With this tool, this actually creates more buyers and sellers, in my opinion, because they can move more frequently. They can move with ease. If they find that emotion because they see an open house and they want to buy it, or that spec home or a new construction, they can buy it and don't have to worry about changing out the carpet, or don't have to worry about, is their house going to sell in time to buy the other one? It's already sold. And so I think you're going to continue to see this, more and more. And I think, the question we always ask, who knows more on this topic, you or the consumer?
Well, the consumer already knows about it.
Well, and I think that's the challenge, right? Remember I said earlier, we're not the gatekeepers.
No.
I mean, in the Phoenix market, they're on every other, TV, radio, Facebook ads, social media in general, billboards. Everywhere you go, they are marketing, and there's no way to hide that from our consumers. So if we can't hide it, how do we leverage it? And then, the question here is, do they know that you can help? And I think a lot of agents are still in that that denial stage where they hope it goes away, or maybe it hasn't affected their business enough yet. Maybe they'll find out this holiday season when they mail out their Christmas cards and see how many come back with undeliverable, no longer at this address. I know someone's going to call me out on that afterwards. Like in December, I'm going to see people going, okay, we're ready to embrace this. But do they know that you can help? And I think that's, one of the things we'll continue to teach throughout, every class that we're doing is, what's your message to your database? If all you're sending out is your crappy little email newsletter that you don't even read as part of your CRM, don't expect them to find value in that. The value is you talking to them and communicating. We use a product called Viral Marketing so that they do all the video editing and all that fun stuff. But that way we can send 2 videos a month to our database, just letting them know as their local market expert, here's what's happening, here's what's going on, and here's how we can help you. And we can guide you through all the process. And we also go into the value we add by them not going direct, which is we're used to marketing. So we market to the iBuyers. We make sure we explain everything about the house that maybe doesn't fit into their check boxes on their online forms. We can help them negotiate inspections, whether it's straight negotiation, whether it's getting additional bids with some of our service providers.
And that becomes a lot easier the more that you're working with the iBuyers, because you start to learn what each different buyer is looking for. And
Yep. Well, and I think we know that when we submit to the iBuyers, we know that they know that we're shopping them. Where a typical consumer, the iBuyer may just think they're the only ones they're talking to, whereas when they're going through us, so it's that when buyers compete, sellers win kind of mindset. So super exciting time. if you're knee deep in this like we are, and I hope you're listening today, just embrace it. Because when we talk about farming, the cool thing about this is whether you're starting a farm or whether you have a seasoned one, we're always looking for content and messages, and this is so much content out there. And every time
And
there's
incredibly relevant.
completely, absolutely relevant. But the benefit is, and there's so many good messages, and we'll hopefully share more and more of this is, confused on selling in today's market, or why does everyone want to buy my house now? Like it went from everybody wanting to list my house or give me a CMA, why is everyone offering to buy it? What's changed? And I think we'll get into that as we dive further into this.
Now, you said just a second ago, you used the word guide.
Yes.
Which is from Donald Miller's book, Story Brand.
Yep, building a story brand. Yep.
So how is that conversation different using the story brand focus, where we want to be the guide? We're acknowledging that people want to be the hero in their own story, and their story is them getting from A to B, and we can get them there. If you haven't read the book, he really dives into things that we're used to, which is movies and books and stories and things like that, mostly movies, and looking at these stories that are basically a part of our DNA now. We've experienced them. It's affected how we think as Americans. And we look at all these stories, and yes, there is a hero in every story, but behind them is a guide that has helped them get there. And so we want to market using that concept that we're the guide. We want to keep them as being the hero. We've changed a lot of the marketing that we've done based on that we just want to let them know that we can help them get from A to B, and we keep them in first place.
And that's the key. So, and then there's another really important piece of this that we really need to understand is, and this is a question, so I'm not telling you, but is it your fiduciary responsibility to present all options, all offers, all known buyers in the marketplace? And so, if you have iBuyers in your market, the hard part is when you find out the hard way that you didn't present that to them. They did it, went on their own and got it, want to fire you because you didn't give them all these options. And so I think there's a real fiduciary conversation to be had too around at least getting some iBuyer offers and presenting and seeing if that's an option they want to go for, and asking better questions, because we're geared and wired to think, and mainly because they beat us up over a 0.5% or 1% on our fee. So we always assume that they want to price it as high as possible. They want this and that. Well, we have found, and again, this is years of experience, is that that's not always the case. So, just really think about that as you're, let me start here. We should have started with this. Is number one thing to really think about as we're going through this is, please just have an open mind to all of this. Like stay in curiosity, because your consumers are driving this. And I think sometimes we think, oh, this is the end of our career, this is the end of the real estate business, and there's some truth to that if we don't adapt quickly with our mindset shift here and really understand how to use this tool in everything we're doing. So and then I think messaging in our farm, or in your farm is no different than really messaging to your data bank, right? Is your little ads and your social media and conversations you're having. And if you're doing a lot of things we teach, at the network events and a lot of the activities, it's a conversation, and people, they're really not sure if you do that or not. So I think making sure that you message your database, but also your farm in all of your marketing, your conversations, asking the questions is extremely important, so that the consumer isn't forced to make a choice between you or an iBuyer.
No, they can make the choice between retail
Right.
sale and instant buyer, but they don't have to choose between.
We don't want it to be a choice between direct and not, like they just go direct to an iBuyer and you're just completely out. Because the number one thing for us truly is the relationship, right? So we want to keep the relationship, and that's extremely, extremely important, because if we know statistically everybody knows 278 people, well, then that relationship is extremely important. And even if we have to have a different commission structure because an iBuyer is involved, but we keep the relationship, and then the time versus money element is in our favor then with an iBuyer, it all kind of works out, and we just end up doing a little more volume, maybe not netting a bunch more, but we're keeping more relationships so that they go tell people, yeah, don't go it alone. I had representation, and yet I used an iBuyer, and it was great. My agent took care of this. And by the way, a lot of these people, they want to go buy a home too. So the relationship is the key. So moving forward here so we don't get kind of stuck, because I could go off on this stuff all day. This is what I'm spending most of my time teaching on right now, is this, and how to implement into your farm, is provide value all along the way. Could they have had the same experience with or without you? And this is a conversation that we have with our team all the time, is when we talk about getting to closing, is, if you had to ask the client the question, could you have done this with or without your agent? I actually got asked, I was in a class this morning, and kind of jokingly by a seasoned agent, someone had asked him about, does he go to closings? And he kind of leaned to me and said, Kenny, do you really go to closings? And I looked at him dead in the eyes, straight as could be, and said, 100%. I mean, we shoot to go to 100% of closings, because that's where the relationships are built. They're seeing your paycheck and everything else. So, you just got to make sure that the value proposition, which is going to be education, advice, local market stats, home repairs, helping get the home ready to go to market, showing them the comparison of go to market versus sell now, go to market in as is condition, meaning not doing carpet and paint, or if we did these things, here's what we can get. So we're spending more time working on that stuff and less time, out in the field.
We're helping them get those quotes too.
100%. And that's the value, is having those relationships where, again, iBuyers have made selling a home so simple. We've got to find ways to make it simple too, even if they have to go to market.
And it helps when they're trying to weigh, okay, should I sell this to iBuyer or make these repairs? And they're able to see, well, maybe in this case, those repairs wouldn't be a good investment, because you wouldn't break even, or you'd end up making 30,000 more, or whatever it ends up being.
Well, and some sellers just don't have the cash, and so there's opportunities there, which we're seeing more and more companies come up with that bridge money in between. So it's just really being truly a solution-based realtor is the key to the new market we're heading into now. We're probably in the second inning, if you will.
So let's look at some of the ads that we've run. So this is way back when we had offers. That was our original site for instant offers. And you'll see that we've played around with language. In some cases, I think, we haven't seen anything that is way better than others, but changing up the messaging here, we went with get a solid offer on your home prior to putting it on the market, see how it compares to the traditional way of selling in a side-by-side comparison. You might be surprised, then again, maybe not. Either way, we're here to help and walking through that. And we kept it going to a landing page. In some of our ads, we directed it to are less branded. It was all of ours of, of course they need to be completely branded with the brokerage clearly displayed, but sometimes we made it look like a little bit less branded. Sometimes we directed them to the specific klausteam.com site, but here we sent them over there. Compared to side move was our tag that we used a lot, and driving them to that. And we got a little bit more graphical, tried to show them some of the different options that were out there, some of the different players that were there, and multiple offers on your home in a side-by-side comparison. And we kept this graphic going for quite a while, and we used it in a lot of different places, got a lot of success off of that. And just, trying to briefly, succinctly give them an idea of what we're able to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And these are all, marketing pieces, again, like Scott said, that, we use in the farm as well as other places, just really to bring awareness that we do all this stuff, and that, we're a free agent, meaning we can go shop all of these guys where they only have their one lane. And they have to stay in it, just like builders. They can't go show other builders, at least in the Phoenix market, and they have to, stay in their lane, where we can do all of it. And so truly being a representative that just wants what's in their best interest is the key.
And I think that's a big piece of the phrasing and the graphics that we tried to focus on, not dissuading them from one direction in the marketing. Because I think it was natural for us to go, oh, look, the retail valuation is so much better.
Right.
And so we had to play with the numbers on the graphics even, and tried to stay away from including net proceeds on the graphics when we could, so that it didn't look like one was always going to be better than the other. Because if we did that, then sellers that were interested in those would think that, oh, they're just going to try and persuade us to do only retail valuations and retail sales.
Yep.
So we then we moved to using a lot more white space and simplifying it as much as we could. So just compare offers for free, both instant offers and home valuations side by side. You decide 3 steps. Tell us about your home, review offers, and pick your closing date. And we've used that happy couple quite a bit.
Yep. But again, all of it is consumer facing, transparency, honest broker approach, hands up, like, hey, we're just here to help you. So whether you take an iBuyer offer or go to market really doesn't matter to me. It's what's best for you and your family.
And then this is where we did really try and make it so you couldn't see the end valuation there. Made sure she was covering that up so that it looked good either way. And so we've used that graphic quite a bit as well.
And it just shows people in control, meaning that they have all their options and that ultimately their agent is by their side, helping them make the right decision. And that's really what we're after, quite honestly. Full transparency.
Here we wanted to go with the testimonial approach. And so we had Kathy was one of our clients that did this and let us use her quote in her picture.
Yep.
And again, a lot more white space, simplified as much as we could.
Yeah, and trying to get the testimonials, and just, she was one that had an investment property to sell. So I helped guide her and, figure a few months of vacancy just by the time we get the house ready, put it back on the market, and, trying to help her decide which was the best route, which, she even said, she's been a client for a long time. She even said, I saw those things, but I didn't think they were legit, but I'm so glad that you brought me all those options, and I should have known that you'd be on top of this. And so she was been a great spokesperson for choice. And really, you mentioned Amazon earlier, and I think that's, the consumers, our brains are being rewired a little bit at a time, where we demand on demand and now, but choice. Like, we want to be in control. So I don't care if you're shopping, let's just say it's, for the sake of some easy paper towels, for example. I mean, you may go to Amazon and shop, and you're going to look at Amazon's choice. You're going to look at price. You're going to look at deliverability. I mean, does it prime? You're going to look at all these different and go, what's best for me? It may not even be the best paper towel, but it may be the one that you can get cheaper. It may be the one that you can get today still. It may be the one that is, and that's what drives choice. So it could be price, it could be convenience, it could be speed, it could be quality.
Well, they're rewiring our brains on a daily. 8 years ago, we told all of our kids and young adults, do not meet up with people you connect with over the internet, and don't get in cars with strangers. And now, how do we get around? We Uber.
Saturday night, I was in a stranger's car a couple of times, just to and from, and it is funny to think about how quickly we were rewired to think that is
completely rewired. Yeah.
So, but just know that this is what's best for the consumer, and that's our mindset. Is we're not hiding, we're not protecting, there's nothing that we should be trying not to share with them, because they're going to find it, and as soon as they find it, and we aren't the one who brought it to them, the trust relationship is really challenged. So, think of transparency, think of, I was flying Southwest last week and even their napkin said transparency, but I was like, it's just funny how you see that everywhere. And it's where things are headed. Consumers in control.
So we said there's more than one way to sell your home. Discover all the solutions, and trying to work in the flexible commissions into language as well.
Yeah.
So people know that we're not stuck right there. This one we ran the elephants out of the room. There's more than one way to sell your home, and just trying to get them to see that and connect with that. And this is the one we ran last month. Are you leaving money on the table? Protect your equity and get offers before you list. And I like the language there, Kenny, before you list.
Yep, that's the key.
And just letting them see what all their options are.
And by the way, these are a lot of, we're giving you the ones that have had responses. We've had plenty of others that may not, do quite the same thing. So these are all actionable items and been very, we just keep building on them so the consumer every month just knows that we're involved in that process, that conversation.
Then this is our current website that if we drive them directly to klausteam.com, we've increased the calls to action and opportunities to connect for sellers. Selling, get all your options in one place. And that's kind of, we've played with a lot of language. That one we feel right now, it attracts both people that are looking for the retail sales and people that are looking for instant offers. And so we can get their info there. And of course, we also have our instant offers tab there as well, so that they can see they can get multiple offers.
Yep. Either way, we gotta have the conversation with our people because they're hearing it from friends at work who have had the experience. They've Open Door specifically has done over 50,000 closed transactions to date in 5 years, and the majority of that has been the last 2 years because they've really ramped it up.
And they're getting better.
And Zillow, at the pace that they're going, I think they're well over now, because this was data from 2 months ago, but 170,000 homeowner requests. They're anticipating, over 300,000, and they're only in so many markets. They just launched San Diego like 2 weeks ago, but they've already got the consumers. That's the challenge there is, our consumers are looking at Zillow. We always, before we go to listing appointments, we have a thing in our form that says, did you get this estimate, meaning the agent, before you go, because we knew the consumer was already looking at it and we needed to know if it was higher, low, or right on. So we already know they're going there. Now there's a big button that says get an offer now, and that's why they're growing like crazy in that space. So we just need to make sellers aware of the value to use an agent still when you're working with iBuyers. And so I know this isn't necessarily the time to dive into that. I have a separate program for all of that good stuff, because this is a whole nother topic that we can go really deep on. But we really just want you to get to the table and stay in the conversation, because every time, us as an industry, it doesn't matter what brand you're with, it doesn't matter, we're realtors and it's our profession, that we really, every time we lose a deal to an iBuyer direct, not when we were there, but direct, there's a chance that seller may never use a real estate agent again because the way the process went so smooth. So not trying to scare you, well, I am a little bit, because I care, because we care, and we want to make sure that you have all the competitive advantages in the market by just taking the time to get educated on this conversation first.